Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om Akhandamandalakaram Vyaptam Yena Characharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Guru Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So we start with 35. But before we start with 35, Vishu, will you just recite the first few lines of the Purusha Suktam?
Sahasrashirsha Purusha Sahasrachas Sahasravat Sabhumim Vishpato Vitpa Attadashankulam Purusha Evedakam Sarvam.
Stop. He says, Purusha Evedagam Sarvam. Right? What is this? What is this Purusha? And what is this Sarvam? Any thoughts? So in the Purusha Sukta, in the Rig Veda, in the 10th mandala, the 9th Suktam is called Purusha Suktam. And this is quite often recited as a part of the Karma Kanda, wherever you are doing any Karma Kanda exercise. It is one of the suktas which is recited for Abhishek, it is recited for the Purnahuti, it is recited in various places for various. For that matter, it has 16 lines and therefore 16 parts rather. And this is each of these parts is also used and broken up into lines for doing the Shodasha Upachara Puja. So for doing the Shodasha Upachara Puja of any deity, any male deity, typically Purusha Sukta can be broken up and it can be used for doing Shodasha Upachara Puja also, stanza by stanza. But what is this?
You said something.
So I was saying that the Purusha Sukta can be broken up and be used as a set of mantras for doing Shodasha Upachara Puja also. So now my question is, what is this Purusha? And what is this Sarvam? Purusha evedagam Sarvam. Purusha eva idam Sarvam. Purusha alone is this all. Now, therefore, Purusha alone is this all. What does these four words mean? What is Purusha? Why Purusha alone? What is this? What is this all? Or this all can be taken as one word.
Is Purusha is Brahman?
No.
Then if it is Purusha was Brahman, then he would have said Brahma eva idagam sarvam. The rishis are very precise in using certain words.
I think Atman is Purush.
Okay, Atman is Purush. Any other thought?
So here Purusha Evedakam Sarvam means this Purusham, which is Purusha which is there before, and Purusha which is going to come in future. They are all pervasive. They are all pervasive. And then not only this, even for the deities, he is the controller, and hence he transcends the the state in which that is from unmanifested state to manifested, from manifested state to unmanifested state. So that's what it is.
Okay.
So here I believe that the Purusha here is referring to the Parabrahman only.
Okay.
Because he says Evedagam Sarvam. Whatever that you see is him. Or it or whatever.
Akhil Brahmand is also
Purusha. Perfectly all right. Idagam sarvam. Idam sarvam. Eva idam sarvam. Here very clearly sarvam is what I can perceive. Whatever I am perceiving, Whatever is within my perception is all. So all that I can perceive, that much at least we all clearly understand. Now this Purusha, from the concept of what the Rig Veda says, and when we come back to Aparokshanubhuti, we will see this, that Purusha here is the manifested form of Brahman. The manifested form of Brahman, not Brahman per se, but the manifested form of Brahman. And therefore he says, why rishis don't talk directly about Brahman is because Brahman is eternity, infinity, are concepts that our brains cannot take. Divya chakshum dadami, right? In the 11th stanza of the Bhagavad Gita, he says, Divya chakshum dadami. I give you a new set of eyes. The perception has to become so different. It is not that his eyes are removed. I mean, if you see these popular TV serials, you will see that Krishna raises his hands, some rays come out, he goes into his eyes become glowing, and suddenly he sees the Vishwarupa. And that Vishwarupa that has been painted so very often, that is not the description in the Bhagavad Gita. Because, you see, these are all conceptual imaginations to bring the infinite into some conceptual place where I can look at it from a finite perspective. If you look at one of the very strongly recommended texts by Raman Maharshi. Raman Maharshi was not a person who would recommend too many texts, but one of the texts that he used to recommend was Tripura Rahasya. Tripura Rahasya is a very interesting text. It has three parts: Mahatma Khanda, Jnana Khanda, and Charya Khanda. Mahatma Khanda starts by extolling the greatness of Devi. Then comes the Jnana Khanda, which is 6,000 verses. In 6,000 verses, it is the praise of the Devi. Then for 3,000 verses, he talks about... Am I audible? Am I audible? I think I've frozen. Am I audible?
Okay, you come back. So you just started to speak about Jnana Khanda.
So the Jnana Khanda is about 3,000 verses. And the 3,000 verses, let me just put off my video to shift myself to another place. So, okay, the Jnana Khanda is 3,000 verses, which basically talks about Advaita. And then there are about 3,000 verses which talk about Charya. Charya means the process of how to conduct oneself in Advaita. And in that, in the first line of Tripura Rahasya, he says, Aum Namaha. Salutations to Aum as a representation of the Parabrahman. And then he goes on to say, Karana Nanda Rupini, Karana Nanda Rupini, the bliss that has caused this universe. And then he goes on to say that Chid Darpana Rupini, she is a reflection of this consciousness that is all pervading. Why does the Rishi say this? Why does Bhagavan Dattatreya say this? Because he realizes that we cannot see the eternity by automatically. So he puts in front of us a form, a particular manifestation through which we perceive the reality. So here we have to be understanding that Purusha here is an indication we have to see, and therefore he puts hands and legs to it. When Vishu was chanting, he started by saying, Sahasra Shirsha Purusha, 1,000 hands, 1,000 heads, 1,000 legs, 1,000 eyes. Now, obviously, here, if a person has 1,000 heads, he is supposed to have 2,000. Sahasra Chakshu. Right? Yeah, so these 1,000 number is basically again a number to indicate a largeness. Now, if you look at the verse, Sarva Purusha Eveti Sukte Purusha Sanjite. Very clearly he says in the Suktam, it is saying that this entire universe is Purusha. This entire perceived universe, what I can see is what I can see, meaning what I can perceive is this entire is Purusha. Now, so the word Sukta here indicates Purusha Sukta. Api uchyate, apyuchyate yata shrutya katham syadehaka puman. Syadehaka puman is the refrain of these set of verses up to 38. So, api uchyate, right? Api also uchyate yata shrutya. Shrutya. So now, Sukta and Shruti have been divided here. Now, while we understand that Shruti is a composite of the whole of this, the whole thing, both the Karma Kanda and the Jnana Kanda, but we have to remember that this is being written by a sannyasi. And the sannyasi has gone away from Karma Kanda. He does not do Karma Kanda. The sannyasi is actually supposed to be Niragni. For that matter, you should, at some point of time in your experiences, you should go to the Kumbh Mela at Prayag, specifically Prayag, because it's the largest, because it has lots of space. If you go to Ujjain is a small town, right? If you go to Trimbakeshwar, it's even smaller. It's a very small village. Haridwar is also very narrow. It has very less space. But the Prayag Kumbh Mela, it has a huge Prayag Kumbh Maidan. There is this entire island in the middle of the river, which can be converted into a Kumbh Mela ground. And that is the time when you will see that a lot of these brahmacharis being converted into sannyasis. And they do a yajna. They do a homa. And that homa is called Viraja Homa. In the Viraja Homa, they offer everything into the fire. And the last, so the first step, some of them don't come from families which have invested them with sacred threads, right? And they come from various gotras, various families. So first, this whole process, in the first time, he is first invested with a sacred thread. And then, as a brahmachari, he continues to be invested with a sacred thread, and he continues to do work in the ashram, in the mutt, or wherever he is working, in the akhada that he is working. And then he grows attached to it because it is a symbol of his position. And then he sits down and he takes that and he breaks it and he throws it into the fire. Right? Upavita Swaha, one of the mantras of the Viraja Homa. Upavita Swaha. And that, yes, please.
So I had asked, I think a very long time ago, I don't know if I'd asked you this question. In the Viraja Homa mantra, you have, pranapano, vyano, dana, samana, me shuddhyantam, jyotirham, virajai papma, bhuyasika swaha. When you come to the 12th one, avyakta bhavair ahankarair jyotirham. There is no shuddhyantam in that. It's avyakta bhavair ahankarair jyotirham, virajai papma, bhuyasika swaha. Why is that 12th one different than the other ones? Everyone else, all the other 11 have shuddhyantam in it. But avyakta bhavair ahankare jyotirham virajai. Why this is missing that shuddhyantam?
So ahankara bhava shuddhyarthan, what will it mean?
Avyakta bhavair ahankare jyotirham.
So avyakta bhavera ahankarera, right? What are you offering into the fire?
Myself, ahankara.
Ahamkara. So
Yeah.
myself does not need to be purified. Myself is the eternally pure. So what are you actually offering? My ahamkara is not myself. It is my identification with the body, mind, intellect. That
Ego.
does not need to be purified. Yes, it is the
Basically, you are
ego.
offering the ego.
And therefore, that does not need to be purified. It needs to be burnt. It needs to be burned. It needs to be completely destroyed. And hence, that is not Shuddhyartha.
Ultimate things to be burned. Because once if that is burned, everything else is burned.
So anyway, when you go there, you will see this actual ritual happening where then they do a shraddha. Then they do a shraddha, actual shraddha, where they do pinda and they offer pindas to themselves with the opposite hand and all that. They do the entire shraddha for themselves because once he has taken sannyasa, he is not supposed to be offered shraddha also. So he offers shraddha to himself. Having offered shraddha to himself, he shaves off his hair, he removes his clothes, and he does the last homa that he will ever do, and that is where he says, Agnaye Swaha Agnaye Idam Namavan. No more Agni is also no more mine. I do not own Agni. He becomes what is called Niragni. Right? We have seen the word Niragni in Bhagavad Gita also. Right? So this Niragni, when he becomes Niragni, that is the... So Shankaracharya was a Niragni. He was a sannyasi. And being a sannyasi, he did not have the right to fire, and therefore karma kanda was something that he was not looking at all. So he distinguishes very clearly between the karma kanda and the jnana kanda by saying sukta, shruti. Right? He is very clearly understanding that the shruti and the sukta are the same. They are part of the shruti itself, but he distinguishes here and says both the karma kanda and the jnana kanda of the Vedas are declaring the same. Now, why is that important? Why is it important that the Shruti is declaring it? Why is it important that the Karma Kanda is declaring Purusha? How does that matter? Why is he saying, therefore, oh intelligent person, hey, please don't be thinking of the body as the self. Katham sya deha kapuman, he keeps saying. Why is he saying this? What is the relevance?
क्योंकि जो भी कुछ है वो सब तो मर्ज हो जाना है ना, इसीलिए शायद
नहीं. So सूक्त में लिखा हुआ है, श्रुति में लिखा हुआ है, ये how is that important?
He's pointing out that we are not honoring the fundamental tenets of our scriptures. Our scriptures very clearly say that, everything that is manifest is the Purusha.
No, but
Yet
he
we
himself,
feel that, we are a body, we are a mind.
he himself in his Brahma Sutra has said that the Vedas are also Aparashu Vidya.
No, understand,
So
at the same time, he never says disown the Vedas. He just says at the time of crossing, you will have to take care.
That is not the reason. That is not the reason. That is not the reason. The reason is very simple. It is pramana. Right? Now, what is proof? Do I have proof of everything that I have is in my knowledge? Do you have proof that that man landed on the moon? Is it in your perception? No. But you accept it as a part of your knowledge because it came to you from a very trusted newspaper or a news channel. This is called apta pramana.
Yeah,
this is called
earlier classes.
Correct.
Yeah.
This is called apta pramana. A lot of things which we have discussed in earlier classes. Nobody is doing revision. So therefore we have to keep doing the same thing again and again. And then we have
pramana.
And then we have what I experience is pratyaksha pramana.
Yeah.
Then I have apta pramana. But sometimes then there is shastra pramana. Shastra pramana here does not necessarily mean only the shastra. In any knowledge that you have. We have this beautiful knowledge which says that there is something called quantum theory. Now, have you experienced a quantum equation? That's an impossibility. Correct? I mean, the 5 of us sitting, 6 of us, 5 of us sitting here would never have experienced a quantum equation. Right? Have you ever experienced or seen a gravitational wave? You have seen what is gravity. You have experienced gravity. Have you experienced gravitational wave? Right? No. But we accept the fact that there is a quasar. We accept the fact that there is a black hole. We accept the fact that why? Because there is Shastra Pramana. Science has taken that and explained it logically and brought it into a point where I can understand it and therefore I accept it to be true. Shastra is nothing but that. So it is when what is truth? Truth is therefore where all the three align. My experience, what my guru told me, and what my Shastra tells me. When all the three align, that is the truth. That is what I accept as truth. Right? Hence, very clearly here, Acharya is pointing to Shastra as Pramana. And is saying, in your life, you will not experience everything in this world. There are other people who have experienced it. People who have been investing their entire lives in this, they have come back to you with a certain knowledge. Don't deny it. Accept it. And if Shastra, both the Karma Kanda and the Jnana Kanda are declaring it again and again and again, then there must be some relevance to it and therefore do Manan. The Aparokshanubhuti also, another thing we have to understand is also each shloka is meant for doing Manan only. It is a Manan shloka. It is a book for Manan. It is not a book for reciting. It is definitely not a book for reciting, and I don't know of people who recite Aparokshanubhuti, but people can chant and use it for chanting. Chanting will not take us anywhere. We have to do Manan on this, and each shloka is meant for Manan. So if you look at, see verse 36, here again he uses it the same thing. Asanga Purusha Prokto Brihad Aranyake Apicha. Here he brings in the Brihad Aranyaka. Right? Anantam ala slishtastam katham syadeha kapuman. Slishtaha. So Anantam amala samslishtaha. So Anantam amalam samslishtaha. Samslishtaha. Amalam is Anantam amalam samslishtaha is not impure. He's put a double negative over there. He's saying not free from purity. Amalam. Eternally free, eternally bound with impurity. That is the literal meaning of that word. So it is, why is he saying this? Now, why did he bring up Brihadaranyaka? Brihadaranyaka, I don't know if we have talked about Brihadaranyaka earlier. One of the largest Upanishads, has a lot of stories in it. Also, basically, it is a dialogue between the Yajnavalkya and one of his wives. Right? He had two wives. So, Maitreyi and Dusri?
Gargi.
No. Gargi was a fellow student. गार्गी के साथ उसकी आर्ग्यूमेंट हुई थी जनक के किंगडम, जनक के यज्ञ में. दूसरी वाली का नाम कात्यायनी था. So Maitreyi and Katyayani. Now Maitreyi and Katyayani, he divides. When he said, okay, now I have had enough. Now it is time for me to take on my third responsibility. I have done enough in my grihastha ashram. Now I have to go and become a vanaprasthi. So I am going. So here I have to bring all my wealth, and he was very wealthy. He had a lot of cows. Cows was the measure of wealth over there. So he brought all his cows and he started dividing them. And Maitreyi asked, if I take these cows, will I get Brahma Vidya? If I take all these cows, will I get knowledge? If I take all this jewelry, will I get knowledge? And he says, no. Knowledge does not come from that. And then he starts explaining knowledge to her. And that is basically the sum total of, or the essence of the Brihadaranyaka. And therefore, he is obviously telling stories and so on and so forth. Gurudev always used to take Yajnavalkya as a very interesting example and used to say, so somebody asked, is it important, is it necessary, sorry, not Gurudev, this was Swami Shivananda in one of his books. Gurudev just mentioned it in a particular instance. So Swami Shivananda used to talk about this. He used to say, is it necessary to take on brahmacharya? Of course it is necessary to take on brahmacharya. You have to become a brahmachari. Without being a brahmachari, you can never get Brahma Vidya. Become a brahmachari like Yajnavalkya. He had 2 wives, but he was a brahmachari. And everybody would be surprised. What is this? Having 2 wives and you are being called a brahmachari? Yes, Brahma acharya, charyate iti brahmachari. He who conducts himself towards Brahman is a brahmachari. And that was the root of why that entire book, which I have referred to a number of times, he has written about the how to live a life as a householder. Very beautifully, he has explained the entire concept. Now, here in Brihadaranyaka also, he says, Anantam amalaslishtam samslishta katham syadehe kapuman. So, he's saying that it is full of impurities. Now, think of this body. Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa used to say, there was this one instance where to test him, some people, he was that time living in Dakshineshwar. And at that time he was doing his sadhana. He was in the sadhana phase of his entire life. And when he was doing this sadhana, 2 prostitutes were sent into his room. And seeing these prostitutes, he didn't know they were prostitutes, beautiful young women. He came into the room and he started seeing the form of the goddess and he went into samadhi. And these ladies could not wake him up, obviously not get any physical reaction from him. They tried to sit on his lap and they touched him in various places, what is today called a bad touch in schools. They did all those bad touches and everything. Nothing happened, and they ultimately fell flat at his feet. And they came out, and they apparently came out with regret that they had taken on this particular assignment of trying to deviate sadhu from his tapasya. When later on, one of the disciples had asked him about this particular incident, he says, but it does not matter whether I'm seeing a beautiful woman or I'm seeing you, because what I see is a bag of bones full of shit, mucus, and urine. A bag made of skin full of inside which has bones, and it is full of shit, urine, and mucus. These are the actual words he is using in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, compiled by one of his close householder disciples, who was a school teacher. He has exact words are there. So now, just imagine what we have described. It is all impurity, right? Where we have had a demise in the family recently. The moment the person died, what did you say? Oh, now there is impurity. Tutak lag gaya. Impurity. Why? अभी 5 सेकंड पहले, 5 क्या 1 सेकंड पहले उसको लेकर हम लोग हल्ला कर रहे थे. Now you are saying that person is impure. Why? What happened? What left? The thing that left you was that consciousness. That is what identified you. That is what made you move. That is what made you mobile. So here he says again, he brings in asanga purusha prokto brihad aranyake apicha. Right, in Gurudev's book, he very clearly brings out the specific reference of Yajnavalkya where he tells his wife, asango hi ayam purushaha. So now if you look at the next verse. Verse number 37. Yeah. Tatraiva cha samakhyata swayam jyotirhi purushaha jada para prakashayoyam katham syadeha kapuman. Where just exactly what I was talking about, right? It is self-effulgent. It does not need a support. Unsupported, it supports the entire universe. Has the Bhagavad Gita mentioned something like this? Right, we have seen this. We will see this also later on in chapter 10 and chapter 11, where we will see him as the support of the entire universe. Now, what is supporting this entire universe? We have seen again the verse in Bhagavad Gita where he says, Manina Eva something. what is the verse?
Never bhojyam.
This is okay. The verse basically is saying that that there is a thread, and on the thread there are all these beautiful pearls, right? The thread cannot be seen, but all these pearls can be seen, and we look at the garland and we say that it is a beautiful garland. But what is holding that garland together? That thread, that unseen thread of consciousness that is holding this entire universe together is what is called consciousness, what is called Brahman. And here we are looking at it in the manifested form of what is called Purusha. So here he says, Tatreva cha samakhyataha. Samakhyata, sam vikhyataha. Right? Samyak rupena vikhyataha. So, very well said. Vikhyataha. Famous. Properly famous. Right? Swayam jyotihi. It does not require a support. It is unsupported. But yet it is the support of everything. We have seen that also in another particular chapter and particular verse. It is one of the favorite shlokas of Meenaji. I am in everything. They are not in me. Right? And she has been using that as a mantra for her, controlling her own emotions also. So, very, whether it is at a mind. हाँ जी, बताइए ना.
ये श्लोक सच में मुझे लग रहा है, कई बार मुझे फील होता है, जैसे मैं इसको बार बार इमेजिन करती हूँ कि चारों तरफ अंधेरा है और मैं आंखें बंद करके बैठी हूँ, तभी मुझे सब कुछ क्लियर कैसे दिखता है. तो आई थिंक ये वही है, जब स्वयं प्रकाशित है, कुछ भी नहीं है, कोई लाइट नहीं है, फिर भी क्यों दिखता है सब कुछ. व्हाट इज दिस?
So therefore, that self-effulgence, जो ज्योति है, this is continuously, we see that. So again, going back to Purusha Sukta, towards the end of Purusha Sukta, if you can think of the lines over there, he talks about it being residing in the heart in the form of a blue flame. Right? He talks about that. He says it is deep inside in my heart, as in the heart of every individual, in the form of a blue flame. And that blue flame, now he specifically uses the blue flame because the blue flame does not even exist in reality. So it's only a symbolic thing as consciousness pervading into every being that is there around us. And again, he keeps on saying that the rest of everything in this world, Purusha, that what we call Prakriti, is Jada. Jada paraprakashayo. Right? It is glowing with the light of something else. So even the moon, which is said to be shedding cool rays, the cool rays are basically coming from the sun. It is Jada, it is reflecting. All sorts of light in this entire world that we perceive comes from the sun. Bhaskaraya vidmahe, Mahadyutikaraya dhimahi, tanno aditya prachodayat is his Gayatri. Bhaskara, that which causes light to happen. Mahadyutikaraya, he who glows with strength. Right? To that first Aditya, that son of Aditi, to that son of Aditi we pray. Now, everything that is in our physical perception is coming from the sun. Because without the sun's light, nothing would have existed. Similarly, even the sun itself, how does it grow? How does it glow? Because it glows with the consciousness from Purusha that pervades this entire universe. So, Gurudev always used to use the movie, he used to call it a bioscope. At that time, I suppose when he was young, they used to call it a bioscope. So he never used the word cinema. So he always used to call it the bioscope. And he says the bioscope is projected onto a curtain. I am sure if he was in today's world, day and age, and you would have taken him to an Inox, he would have loved it, because you see, the curtain at least had some movement. Because, you know, I don't know if you all have seen this. In the villages, they would put up a white bed sheet and people would sit on both sides. So people would sit on both sides and they would be able to see. So people who sat on the opposite side, they paid less. They paid less amount. People who sat in this side, they paid a little bit more. Everybody sitting on the ground only. Everybody sitting on the floor and on the mud. But people who sat on the right side, they paid a little bit more. 8 आने की टिकट होती थी और उस साइड में बैठो तो 4 आने की टिकट, बिकॉज आपको उल्टा दिखता है. दुनिया में दोनों साइड दिख रही है. दिख रही किस चीज पर? पर्दे पर. और जब सिनेमा बायोस्कोप खत्म हो जाता है, पर्दा वैसे का वैसे ही रहता है. पर्दे के ऊपर में कोई चेंज नहीं होता है. And he would have loved this projection onto a wall, because the wall is so much more clearly permanent, so much more kutastha. Right? Yes, Raghuji, you raised your hand.
Yeah, the mention that Meenaji said reminded me. Do you know of a child story writer called Roald Dahl?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, he has written one story, the wonderful story of Henry Sugar. Have you read that one?
No, I haven't.
When I read it, I was totally surprised, because this is not for a child, and it is got elements which are completely from our culture and thought process. It's a story about a doctor who stumbles on the case notes of another doctor who had treated a person who walked into the clinic, and he wanted that the clinic to just bandage his entire face such that he could not see at all.
Okay.
And he would confirm that it cannot be seen, and then he will say, okay, now show me how many fingers, and he will tell exactly number of fingers, and then he gets up and he goes out, takes his cycle, and he bicycles away. So this guy, he stumbles on that and says, what does he do? And then the doctor has written what is the meditation that guy did, so that he can start seeing even though his eyes are completely shut. Okay, so that kind of brought me, and then he does the same thing, and then he starts looting all the casinos, but he doesn't loot for the pleasure of money. He actually, when he first loots, he goes and throws the money out, and the people in the street start grabbing the money, and there is accidents, and a policeman comes and shouts at him saying, are you stupid? So then he realized that, okay, I will now use this money to do charity, and he goes around the world doing charity and all that. It's a story that is really, I was surprised that this is a Roald Dahl story. The wonderful story of Henry Sugar.
So as you were talking, the advantage of the internet, I looked at the fact that there's also a film on by the same name.
Yeah, actually, I actually watched the film. That's where I saw it. Yeah.
So see, this whole principle of Advaita also allows the position of miracles, right? How it allows the position of miracles is basically by saying that if I am in tune with the consciousness that is existing across this entire universe, then time no longer has any meaning for me, nor has any place any meaning for me. And that is why when you go back to Yogananda Paramahamsa's book, and you look at it, or Shri M's book, when you read Shri M's autobiography, and you look at all these wonderful miracles, if you understand an iota of what Advaita really is, then you realize that this is fully possible within the realm of having a no time, no place situation. Because if I am no longer limited by this body, then I am consciousness. Tailanga Swami is supposed to be he has some 5 or 6 samadhis. 3 are in the south, 1 is in Kashmir, 1 is in Kashi. There are 5 that I know of. So he used to die somewhere, come out somewhere else, again live another life of 300 years. Now, the body would change, the body maintained. So this stories of Mahavatar Babaji and so on and so forth. I personally discount a lot of the Mahavatar Babaji later on stories because he was introduced to us through Yogananda Paramahamsa. Before that, there is no reference to him. But the fact that Babaji is supposed to have lived from the time of the Mahabharata and so on and so forth is fully possibility. Because you have no longer any need for a body. You just use the atoms around you and make it into a body. Come here, talk to me, go away, and dissolve those atoms and continue to be living in the position of the position of consciousness, waiting to merge. We talked about that, the Avalokiteshvara or the Bodhisattva Bhava. So, in that sense, the miracles are also possible. So, if you look at verse number 38 again, Proktopi karmakandena yatma deha dvilakshanaha nityasya tat phalam bhukte deha pata anantaram. So what he says here, deha pata anantaram, deha patat. So the demise of the body, anantaram, after. So what says here, he says is that the karma kanda is used for basically prokta, even karma kandena, in the karma kanda, atma dehat vilakshanaha. It is not the same, because even in the karma kanda, which is a Dvaitic view, taking a Dvaitic view of saying that, okay, you need to do the karmas, you need to do them, therefore you will attain heaven, and so on and so forth. Even there, the Atman and the Deha have been separated. I am not the body. Now, unfortunately, Acharya has to do this again and again and again and again, because while we physically realize and understand that we are not the body, we understand that we are not the body, we do not realize it. And that is a big difference. I have told you the story of the king who did not have children and went to the yogi. Right? That is realization. Living with that realization. Today I was doing a very interesting coaching session with one of the people. He is a part of our spiritual group also. And one of the questions that we were trying to struggle with is, when you look at the future and you say, okay, I am responsible for this act, and this act, and I have to do this and do this and do that. And then I ask you this first question. Let's presume that tonight you will go to sleep and tomorrow you don't wake up. What will happen? If you have considered that, and then you say that, yes, despite that, I have been able to do this, then you have achieved your goals. But we don't look at life that way, right? We all are planning in the future. And that is why he's talking of, Sri Krishna talks about being Nirashi. He talks about not having hope. Not in terms of not having hope, but not having attachment to the results. And therefore, if you have a desire, so we are all still stuck in chapter 3 of the Bhagavad Gita. We are still doing karma, and we are still doing karma with the desire of achieving certain goals. Fair enough that we have lost the attachment to the result. Moving to chapter 4, moving to chapter 5, giving up the karma, it has to happen automatically. We looked at those things when we were doing our quizzes. That is a state where the karma kanda has to drop off automatically. But till then, the karma kanda exists with us. And when I say karma kanda, I am not talking of karma kanda only in the form of saying, oh, Agnihotra, Chaturmasya, or whatever else you are doing in terms of rituals. Even going to office, working with your client is also karma kanda. It is part of the karma kanda that we are continuing to do. But that karma kanda will stop the moment the deha is quit by the Atman. And therefore, very clearly, he says that the deha and the Atman are very different. They are not, but our identification remains. And therefore, we need to do manan on each of these shlokas. So we have a bit of homework. Number 1, to verse number 37, there are certain sets. They are put into sets, right? एक line repeat होते रहती है. That is an indication of being in sets. I would like you to firstly classify them in those sets. Number one. Number two, what is the central theme of each set? All of them have that one big theme. It is called the big theme, which I'm saying, we are not the body, 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 right? But he takes it apart piece by piece in each of these sets. So I want you to do a reflection by going through the entire sets, break them up into sets, understand this is one set of verses, this is another set of verses, look at that, and then over the week, take up any one set of these verses and do a manan on them. Right? Through the week, do a manan on them. That should be something that we will do. So, right? Is there anything? Yes, please.
Yeah, I was supposed to ask, remember the question about Shankaracharya and Nirvana Shatakam. So, the question I had was, see, this is what is said. I don't know. I read about this, that Nirvana Shatakam was composed by
It is the first composition. It is the first composition.
Yeah. As an 8-year-old boy at the
Yes.
doorstep of Govinda Padacharya and or Govinda Bhagavat Pada, I guess it's called. Okay. And so he has reached the doorstep of the Guru, and he wants the Guru to accept him as a disciple. We want to take sannyasa. And the Guru asks, "Who are you?" And he responds with this composition.
Correct. Okay, firstly, why did he have to do that?
So the question is, if he is able to compose a piece of work like Nirvana Shatakam, he is a realized master already. Why does he need a Guru? That was the question I had.
Very nice.
Thought about it for a moment, and then I realized, see, as an avatara Purusha, he has taken the avatara for a purpose of interpreting all the scriptures to make the knowledge available to humanity. He wants to do that task in the most efficient way. He obviously wants to then go under the tutelage of a guru who will give him the access to all these scriptures so that he can get on to his task. So therefore, I felt in this case, he's not looking for a guru to gain realization. I felt he's looking for a guru to assist him in the task that he has set out for himself in this avatar.
Okay. So you found your own answer.
No, I'm suggesting that as an answer. Does that make sense?
Yes, good. Because I mean, that is the whole idea of pariprashna. Pariprashna means that before you ask a question, you would have done your own manan and therefore come to this. Firstly, let me ask you one question. You have heard that all these sannyasis, they have names, right? Like Chandrasekhar Saraswati or Vidyatirtha, right? So what is Shankaracharya's surname? What is the surname that he has?
I've heard the term Bhagavat Pada being used to him also, but I don't know what is his surname now.
Okay. Vishu?
Shankaracharya.
Yeah. that is trying to avoid the question.
No, that is just Bhagavat this thing, Shankaracharya.
So he did not have a surname. Any sannyasi before Shankaracharya did not have a surname because the Dashanami system of surnames was created by Shankaracharya.
No.
So therefore, Gauda Bhagavatapada, Govinda Bhagavatapada, Shankara Bhagavatapada. But after that, they start getting surnames. Saraswati, Parvata, Giri, Tirtha, and so on and so forth. So that is how the surname system came. right? We have such trick questions that we all the time we keep asking. For example, where did Ram celebrate his first Diwali?
Yeah, exactly.
And then people always say, oh, in the forest, in Ayodhya. Unfortunately, then you don't realize we celebrated Diwali because Ram came back. So till Ram came back, there was no Diwali. So, okay, anyway, coming back to the very important and interesting query. See, there are two non-traditionalists. Both of them broke tradition in a very drastic way. One is Gautam Buddha, who jumped from Grihastha ashram to sannyasa ashram by walking away from all responsibilities, everything, and so on and so forth. Before he had met his responsibilities, he walked away. Shankara Bhagavad-pada took it one step further. He walked away from everything even before he took on any responsibilities. Now, just imagine this entire universe if all of us start doing that. You follow the footsteps of the great men. Bhagavad Gita says that, right? Bhagavad Gita says very clearly that if you are an acharya, or if you are a great person, then the itara, the common man, will follow you. So if we
Krishna
all
also
start...
says, though, I think in chapter 4, is it, that he says that if I also start doing this thing and stop working, the entire universe will collapse.
Correct. Now, where that second one is, I is here is Brahman. Right. Now, when he says that I need to work, I need to do this, I need to manifest and work, you are very right when you say that if you do not display following of tradition, then people following him will all start doing their own things. He does not discount the fact that you need to have your own way and you need to do your own thing and you need to do your own manan and find your own path. That he has never said no to. But he says, do it within the framework of a particular system. It will make it not only will it be necessary, but it will also make it easier for you. And hence, he went and took a guru. He went and accepted Govinda Bhagavad-pada as a guru. Not only did he accept him as a guru, he respected him, he worshipped him, and did a lot of seva for him, including the miracle of Narmada being absorbed in the pot was one. But the greatest one that I talk about is that he wrote an entire work of purest Advaita along with the process of reaching Advaita called Bhaja Govindam, where instead of any other word, he used the word Govindam only because he was giving respect to his guru. He could have very well used Bhaja Gopala. Right? Without any change in the chanda, he could have used any other of Krishna's names, Bhaja Keshava, perfectly fitting into the rhythm. But he uses Govinda because Govinda Pada was his guru. So that respect, so he displayed that, and that becomes the role model for all of us. You should, if you ever get a chance, please attend a lecture session with Swami Tejamayananda. And you will see what is Guru Bhakti. So you would have seen him in the movie Quest, right? In the movie, you would have seen a little bit of him, and even there, that manifests so much. Because when we accept something greater than us, and that person then can be truly a guide, and that's the greatness of our scriptures. So very rightly you pointed out that he was already realized. He came down as an avatara purusha with the full realization. He did not have to go through, for that matter, he caused miracles before he even went to take sannyasa. Kanakadhara Stotram is actually, Kanakadhara Stotram is his first composition, Nirvana Shatakam is his second composition. So he, in that whole process where he has become one with the Chidakasha, yet he takes on a guru respects that guru, does guru seva, and then only he goes on to become an acharya, is a process that he defined for us. And that is why he took a guru. It was for a lesson for us. Why does an Advaiti have to write something like Mudakarat or Modakam? For that matter, take any system, right? Whether it is Tantra, he has done Saundarya Lahari. Whether you take Advaita, he has written a Bhashya on Brahma Sutra. Or you take the Karma Kanda, and he has done so many of the stotras that we learn and we recite. For that matter, he was a past master at a particular type of chanda called bhojangam. So these bhojangams, it's a particular way of writing with जिसमें जो छंद है वो गाते समय वो up and down होते रहता है, तो उसके लिए उसको वो भुजंग वर्ड यूज करते हैं, सांप जैसे चलता है वैसे. And he was a past master at that, and he has created bhujangams on almost all the deities that we know about. The reason is that he understands that we are not ready. We are all not in the Chidakasha. We are all Gatakasha, thinking of ourselves as Gata, right? Therefore, it is important for him to set an example. But thank you for asking that question, and thank you for doing the manan and then coming back. That I really respect. Yes, Meenaji.
One of the question which I sent you with WhatsApp, and this is from Bhagavad Gita, verse number 41.
Bhagavad Gita, you are in Bhagavad Gita class. Not here.
Okay.
Chaliye. Let us end. Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.